everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Common Culture. Ask not what your culture can do for you, but what you can do for your culture. If it's your first time here, thank you for being here. And if you are back, thank you so much for watching. And I'm excited to be talking to you guys again. It has been a bit of a break, but I've really been trying to figure out the goals of this channel, what I really want from it, how I want it to be different from every other YouTube video that's on this freaking site. As you can see from the title, we're about to jump into something I don't think anyone has ever labeled the way I'm labeling it. Let me explain what I mean by this. The original term house slave came as almost the two-sided part of the coin when it comes to being a slave. You were either in the field or in the house. Field slaves worked in the field. They were typically darker. If you were lighter, you would be known as a house slave, and you would be more over domesticated tasks. Often these were also people who were entertainers, so musicians, artists. So these are two non-original terms. These are not terms I've made up, nor are they new terms. So if you don't know those terms, you need to go watch other videos about those terms. I believe that those are in the hands of people who do those things really well. They do good data collection, and they know how to communicate history in a story way. And I am not trying to teach history. We can only know how we work in the present day because of history, but I'm not presenting history here. This is the B side of common culture. So this is not really an individual video. This is actually a continuation of modern day slavery. If we were to ask ourselves, what's the current day image of a house slave and a field slave, understanding that those things aren't non-existent anymore. Slavery is still taking place like prison culture. But also, if that still exists, a field, these people put in hard labor with no payout. And because they are in jail, they are thought of as a slave. What are the house slaves like in modern day times? In 2022, without being stereotypical and offensive, could you define what is the difference between not someone in prison, a field slave? What is that? Because if we don't know those images, we might be continually to perpetuate stereotypes onto things that we're taking pride in. And that is what I am challenging today on the B side of modern day slavery. Have we all become house slaves? Me, myself included. If the old day image of the house slave was not only light, but they were typically educated. They read to the children, taught them how to count, they were mammies types. If they cooked, they had to know the recipe. They had to be able to do some sort of mathematics, even if they don't know the labels. They were still very smart. Like I said, they were often artistes, so they may have known how to play an instrument, either because, you know, we have instruments in Africa, I'm pretty sure at that time, and it traveled over. They didn't just steal the people, they stole the culture. And so you have them using our culture as their entertainment inside of their houses. So we translated some of those, the micro stuff. And let me explain what I mean. While the OGs may be more about colorism, still exists, maybe more about who's more educated, very much still exists. The current day image is more of what you strive for. The system now needs us to believe that some of us can succeed if we just work hard enough. And when we all know that most of the time getting wealthy in this country is almost basically just luck. And striving for the things that system needs to perpetuate that system. So what are we striving for that wealthy people can give us? Individually are not an issue. But when they are your whole reason for living, that is what makes me very scared. Because I feel like most of Black culture has become assimilated, not taken over, assimilated into strive, but you still contributed to the system. And not your fault, but we have to recognize what are the modern day things that we're doing to make Master happy. And the 3 things that I feel like that is hyper individualism, family first, nothing else. I can only imagine how it must feel for people who go through gun violence and don't get remembered. Suddenly, the people around you mean way too much to lose. Fair, But when you hyper individualize yourself to where my people, my things, my life matters, so that I can make sure that the things I care about matters more than the society, that's dangerous. But it also feeds in to you using systematically oppressive things. I get that you're trying to build your wealth for your family, but you are also using the system's way of oppression to do so. But again, it's not the individual, it's the compound of multiple things. But there were so many different multiplicities, but I'm just going to get into a few modern day ones. I said there's a difference between making wealth for your family that is generational, because we live in a society that you cannot sustain life without doing so. It's not even about gaining power. It's getting in a position to think about how you can. And you need certain life necessities to do so, which requires certain amounts of wealth. Then, what are the rebellious ways I can still fuck up the system and keep my wealth? If you start excusing the plethora of wealth, where does socialism come in? If you're a socialist, where does competitive margins come in? When the only way to become billionaires typically through monopolization. The last thing that I think is one of the major factors of what it means to be, what does a house slave in modern day society do? They hold moderate to semi-progressive views on all things in life. They don't take a side on anything, but also say that in order to stay objective. But that's still just feeding into the system, because if you don't take a radical stance on the fact that racism shouldn't exist, if you play the field and play back and forth the entire time, even in spiritualities, we know we can't do that. You gotta pick a side. And every black leader has agreed with me. You would combine all these three things together. If I am moderate and I am money motivated and profit without thinking of the social, and I only care about myself and my family and my perspective, I think I just described every radical organization on the right wing in itself. We all are house slaves if we don't think about it too much. Leading me to what I love about my podcast is that we do not always just point out the issues. We always back it up with some way to fix it. So here are the best ways to rebel against the system, because no one wants to risk their life. They don't want to be martyred just to rebel. There are plenty of ways, small and big, to do so. Here's some minor ones that cause major impacts. The OGs, the rebellion was amazing. It looked miraculous, but what was happening was miraculous. People were being hurt miraculously. As we are moving into a world where there's more racist systems than there are racists, you have to remember that it's going to look differently. For the OGs, a lot of the rebellion looked like writing. I have a book that I love, and it's amazing on amazing black women writers from literally the moment we stepped on this side of the world up until industrialization, and I love it. Books became preachers, or in general just social influencers, and this was the main way we rebelled up until the 1960s. But as globalization has come to a feet, so has the black influence. It's everywhere, and when something, even if it is extreme powerful, is everywhere, it minimizes its impact. So we can't quite rebel in the same way. I encourage us to do is to break down the hyper individualism and family. Find a found family that is not blood, and care about them too. I don't care if you as tight as a rock to your family, or if you hate your family, I don't talk anymore. It immediately extends your world, and you're immediately rebelling against the system, because community cannot exist in white supremacy. It has to have people isolated to be convinced of such idiotic things. What else I would do is get financial advice on how to find a line of wealth, is what I call it, at least. This is the number based on the lifestyle you want to live, the lifestyle you want to obtain, the lifestyle you're currently in, that you have to sustain it all for at least 3 to 5 years, because political tides, things change, money, the life happens. You want to make sure that you have, time to adjust. But after that, how much more money do you really need? And give as much after that. Because the third thing, you have to find every moment you can to empathize with something. Find something to empathize with daily, because this society, this system sucks empathy out of you. In this bad of a world, I need to hate some things. What time do you give yourself to be in love with things? And I think those three things are going to take way more radical steps than you think, even in your own personal life. So these are all things I've done too. Because if you give too much of yourself to the things I listed earlier, individualism and all those things, once it's not going to take me telling you to realize those things aren't worth it. I promise you, life will show you that none of those things really matter. And life will then show you, as you build those things I encouraged, that those are. Thank you guys again for listening to my ramblings. I love doing it. I really believe what I'm speaking on. And I hope you guys at least just enjoy a perspective that may or may not have been something you heard before. I hope that if you liked it, you liked it enough to subscribe and give it a like so that other people can see it. And I hope that next time we'll talk about something that hopefully intrigues you just as much or more. And as always, may my faith be enough for us both. See you next time.